I'm Conway. I'm a spiritual psychologist. I've trained with Claudine for over like 2 years. But then we became really good friends. So yeah, so I was never an athlete, and then I met Claudine and I became an athlete. We definitely met at a time, very weird transitional time in my life. But it was such a blessing. But yeah, so
First off, I'm Claudine Castro. I've been a personal trainer for the past over 7 years. I've had my own training business for over 6 years. So I know exactly what us women think about in the gym, especially we're in there to better ourselves, but I feel like we all go in there trying to change our bodies and um just setting the foundation for this talk. It's about body dysmorphia, and body dysmorphia is essentially a very skewed perspective of yourself, and according to Mayo Clinic, the definition is actually it's a mental illness because we drive ourselves to extremes, unhealthy extremes, to just fix all the flaws that we have on our own bodies. And by definition, with body dysmorphia, those flaws can either be real or not real. So it's really just your perception of yourself and the unhealthy ways that you cope with it and how you try to change your body so much. But yeah, that's how we're starting this. Who are you? Tell us.
but we've discussed heavily about our body dysmorphia and our weird eating. We definitely have really weird eating habits and just trying to balance that out. And from a spiritual psychology perspective, it's a very interesting thing, especially when you get into not just it's a mental disorder, but that just metaphysically, like how we're creating at all points in time. Like we literally are creating this problem for ourselves. And it becomes like this really weird loop because once you start being able to, know that you are creating at all points in time, like you have so much control of your body. It's like this almost like it's like a weird addiction to think this way because you know better, because logically it doesn't make sense.
Right. Oh, it's such a trip. But that, yeah, exactly. Like I couldn't have said it any better. And I want to go, I want to delve into how we have our disordered eating and how that affects our lives. And at the very end, I just want to go over ways of how we overcome it, because I don't want to just talk about, problems and then we don't say how we practically solve it, because I think it'll help a lot of people, not just women, but a lot of men out there who definitely suffer from body dysmorphia as well. It does not discriminate, especially if you started working out in the gym. I feel like it gets worse, but recognizing your triggers is it's very crucial to finding ways to overcome it. But can you please go over your beginnings, like how you started recognizing, or I guess before you started recognizing you had body dysmorphia, just all the patterns and all the life stuff that you went through?
Yeah, so I always had like I struggled with eating disorders. My dad was like a single dad and he never raised girls. So and he was extremely athletic and I wasn't. So I was not an athlete, but he ate like he was an athlete. And so growing up, I put on weight really quickly and I was little. So I was like always like the chubby fat girl in school. I couldn't like run, like, oh my God, like jogathons. I was like, can I just call out sick? Like PE was literally so traumatizing because like they had all these tests for you to do. And it's like, you should be able to do this many pull-ups. And it's like, meanwhile,
So
like you've done
real.
nothing. So you can't just like throw someone in. The school system and just in general is like just really especially about health and wellness. Cause like honestly, if we had PE every day, we would have all been like we would have set the tone for us growing up like with normal eating habits and like even school lunches are like like we weren't conditioned to have like a healthy perspective on food, and especially with your background, like I'm white, so like it was like milk and stuff, but like
Yes, it was
the story.
chocolate milk for lunch.
Yes, and then I hear all these stories about kids that were, like grew up and they had culture, and they were being made fun of for their food lunches because they smelled differently or they looked differently. So definitely I grew up like being like this chubby overweight kid. I hated working out, and then I got into partying. So I was like skinny for maybe like 2 years during junior high because I was only
Yeah.
eating like a bagel and cream cheese and an apple a day. So,
Ooh,
and
disordered eating.
yeah, exactly. And like, but then everyone's like complimenting you because you like,
Oh.
and I'm only 5'3". So like I've been 5'3" most of my life. Like, I mean, I'm not a tall person. So, anyways, then you get complimented on it. So it like creates that like conditioning. And then I was in like martial arts, but it didn't last very long. But anyway, so I just like you get conditioned to be like, oh well, I want to seek that validation, right? Like it's like a high. You get like a dopamine high. And then yeah, I like obviously none of this was healthy. None of it was like sustainable. And so then I got really into partying and drugs because drugs, obviously, like who doesn't want to do meth and like be skinny? Like that doesn't make sense either.
Right.
So I had a massive drug addiction, and then I lost my dad. So I was a huge partier, had nothing to show for my life, was not athletic, always struggled with eating disorders, like would be either bulimic, starve myself, like just whatever to be skinny, or to use a lot of drugs so that it wouldn't make me so I wouldn't eat, or I'd like abuse of diet pills. And then I lost my dad, and that was when, and he was like my only parent, and I was like, oh shit, like I gotta get my life together. And like I'd always like weirdly aspired to be really healthy and be athletic. And I always was like, I wish I was, I wish I'd be like those girls that like going to the gym or whatever. I didn't. And then when my dad died, I just realized I had to because I just had so much cortisol and stress. Like I was like, I got to get this out.
Mm,
And that's when I realized like working out isn't about because you love going to the gym. It's just because you're like, no, I'm committed to this. Some days you love it, some days you don't, but you're committed to showing up for yourself. Like that's the difference. Like, and when I started telling myself, I'm doing this for my mind, and it wasn't what my body, like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm doing this for my body. Cause I feel like that's what I was doing. Like, you're doing all these things like not eating or whatever, cause you want to look a certain way, but you get rid of the whole mind body connection because you're not even caring about what you feel like,
mm,
like, so when I started going to the gym and being like, I'm doing this for my mind, whatever my body looks like after this, dope. But I'm doing this for my mind because I can't show up fully for people if I'm stressed out, or, like I need to release this energy somehow in a productive way. But even through that, like I've always struggled with like eating disorders and body dysmorphia. Like I look in
mm.
the mirror, like I have, it's just, I don't know how to describe it. You're like, I'm a size small, but like, and there's some like validation in it, but like, I'm a size smaller. I could wear this. Yeah, I think I don't know. Like, I don't know why we put so much emphasis on it, but it's like, you're like, okay, so, but I feel like I'm like a beached whale. Like,
Mm, yep.
but you're size small. So by general standards, you're fine.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the definition of body dysmorphia. It's a skewed perception of reality of what's going on with your body, and it could be real and it could be not real. And again, it's like, oh, I have evidence that I'm a size 0, I'm small, but the way I see it is I look like a beached whale, which is so messed up. It's that conditioning, right? It's like how you were saying that you went through a pretty messed up period and people were like, wow, you look great. So it's like, in a way, your brain's conditioned, like good and bad could, it could be either one, but also you don't know what's real, so you don't know what's going on at all.
Well, exactly. And then at the same time, like you're getting feedback that you don't get. You know what I mean? It's not something you're consistently giving feedback on. So when
Yeah.
you get the feedback loop, you're like, oh, because if someone was saying you look good all the time,
Mm,
how much energy or weight would that have? You'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like when my brain works, you could like compliment me on, you know what I mean? But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you get these like one-offs, it's like this high that you're looking for, and
Oof.
it's something you're not conditioned to receiving all the time. Meanwhile, like none of this should be something that we get we receive so much validation from outside of ourselves. It
Mhm.
should be something that is literally intrinsically inside of us, that we confidently know I am awesome. No
Yeah.
matter what size I'm at, I'm awesome because I showed up for myself, because I did X, Y, and Z. Like I went to the gym, I ate healthy today because that's what I want to take care of myself, not because I want to look a certain way.
Mm.
And it's like almost like you just have to reprogram yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I agree so much. It reminds me of a post that I saw. It kind of hit the same points that you hit just now with working out. I think, people go to the gym or they work out because in a way it's a form of punishment because they hate the way they look. So they're using working out as a way to change themselves, but it's coming from a place where it's like self-loathing and you just don't want to be who you are and what you're in. But this post related working out to as simple as brushing your teeth. It's like every night I brush my teeth because I know it's going to keep my teeth healthy and I know that it won't rot my teeth out. Sometimes I don't want to brush my teeth and that's okay, but I still brush my teeth. So it's like if you replace brushing teeth with working out in that sense of the context of health and holistic health, it's not just, working your body, but also it's the mental health side of things. I think it could really change things for people. And back to the school system, I wish that a lot more PE teachers would incorporate that holistic health outlook on physical activity versus you got to run a mile every single day. And I'm like, why? Is it because I'm fat? Like, what do you want me to do? So I would love to see that change in the public school system or just the school system in general with physical education is that, hey, we're doing this. There's a purpose behind this because I think we're just conditioned to believe like you just need to sweat and suffer in order to get results. And I'm like, what results do I want? I'm 11. Like,
Yeah. And like, I mean, it's almost like some people work out because there's like a void, like you said, like it's almost like I'm working out because I'm broken. There's something broken about me. So
yeah.
this is going to fix it versus being like, I'm doing it because I mean, and this is like a thing, but like this is what I do because I fly a lot. So I look in the airport and I walk around and I see, because I'm in so many different airports,
Yeah.
just the general population. Like when you go out, look at the general population. We're in California now, so like it's generally healthy. But if
Mm.
you start looking at just an airport's a great place because it's a real big cross section, right? And
Oh
you
yeah.
see older people that are just hunched over and can barely walk. And those are the reasons why I work out. I do this because like structurally, I want my bones to be strong.
Yeah.
I want to structurally be strong. I want to be able to pick up my suitcase and put it in the overhead compartment and confidently know I'm not going to hit someone in the head with it. You know what I
Or
mean? Like,
yourself.
yeah, like these things, like where it's like, I confidently know I can do these things. Like, and so I think when you start implementing a different perspective just on working your why, because it always comes back to like, what's your why? And if your why is because I'm broken and I need to look this way, it's really easy to get off the bandwagon,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because when
Yeah.
you don't see those results as quickly as you assume you should see them, you're just going to be like, well, this, I'm just going to go back to my old ways of like whatever that is.
Mhm. Mhm. Because
But
you
when,
can't see the end.
yeah, but when you look at like older people, you're like, oh, dude, like
That sucks.
I know, like, and it's like, and we all have control over our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And like now there's more evidence coming out in science that like we do control ourselves with our thoughts and our energy and
I
the
agree.
energy behind those thoughts. So we literally can control what is happening in our body with our minds. So like it's like, what do you want to create?
Right.
And if you want to create discord, like we can easily do it. And that's why it's like with body dysmorphia, like I believe it totally is a mental illness because it is all mental.
Mm.
But the power in that is that we have control over our thoughts. Is it hard? Yeah, because like we've been programmed to think a certain way for so long. That's like always hard to undo. It's the same thing as like smoking. Like
Mm.
go to your coping mechanism or whatever, but Can you overcome it? 100%.
For
Just by
sure.
being more aware of like what your thoughts are and going like, that's not true. Or sometimes it can be like an emotional thing. Be like, what is really happening? And
Mm.
being like, oh, is it because I had an awkward conversation with my like loved one or a family friend? You're like, so this has
Always
nothing to
happens.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with
Yeah.
what I like.
It's always an unwarranted or just like an unsolicited comment, because I've gotten that so many times where I'd hear, someone, not gonna name names, and they're like, wow, you look like a man. You're huge. And it's like, oh, cool. And I remember hearing that comment. And I remember the exact day. I remember because I was in Hawaii, and I had pictures taken of me right after that. And I looked at it, I was like, I look so huge and manly. Like, I'm disgusted with myself. And I saw that same picture a few months ago. So now it's 2023, 5 years later. I was like, yo, I was 20 pounds lighter. I looked so good and lean. I mean, on the outside, I looked healthy, but you can see in my eyes, I looked kind of dead on the inside.
Dude,
But
that's the giveaway is your
yeah,
eyes.
it really is. I
They
was
just,
just talking about this with my friend.
yeah, your eyes give it all away. Like when you're unhappy, it doesn't matter what is coming out of your mouth or the tone of it, because like I do so many like reels and stuff. And some of them, like I look back because like you and I batch content. So like
Yeah.
when you batch content, you have enough for when you have that day where you're like, I don't really want to do anything. So you
Yeah.
just like your batch content and you post that. And like I can see in my eyes where I was like, God, I was miserable.
The eyes really don't lie.
No. And then you can see when you're like, I am on fire. Like,
Yep. Yep. Like, I look so happy and I look like I have purpose.
yeah. And it's just so wild. And like, I mean, at the end of the day, like we can't control what anyone else does and
Yeah.
says to us. The only
Mm.
thing we can control is if we decide to consume it, because it's the same thing as if someone putting a cake in front of you. Okay, I can decide if I want to eat it or not. But like like I decide if I want to indulge in your comments about me. Cause like
Mm.
I was in Nashville and like no one really works out there. I think everyone just maybe does Adderall or something. I don't know. But because the girls are really skinny, but like the gyms are empty. So I don't know what's happening there. But I remember going and I was like really lean. Like I like felt good about myself. And like I'm muscular. Like I work out, like I box. Like it is what it is. Like I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I can defend myself. But I
Yeah.
remember a guy being like, "Oh, you're like really in shape. Are you a gymnast?" And I was like, ugh.
Like, you just know, you can read between the lines when someone says something like that. And you're like, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, maybe I should work on some more feminine things, like walk more feminine or something. Like, I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God.
But like
Yeah.
even like the hottest girls, like if you look at any of the girls that super hot, like super like in shape girls, we all kind of walk a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's
For
like we walk like we're sore is what it is.
sure.
Like there's
Like
no
you're insane.
sexy swag to it. It's like we're
No.
fucking sore.
Like, we just went to work out and now I'm dead. And now I'm hungry.
Yes. And the hottest girls that you would say are like, a 15. You watch that girl walk,
Yep,
we
that's
all
right.
walk the same way. We all walk the same way. So it's like you can't have everything. Like everyone, like you can't be everything to everyone. You just got to be good with where you're at and comfortable with where you're at. So
Oof,
like if you
yeah.
want to eat that cookie, like eat it. Fucking enjoy it.
Yeah. Right. And then you just live your life. And I also saw this thing. I was about to say you get back on track, but I saw this thing where it was like, what track? Like, you've always been on the track. Like, there's no getting off track. Like, you just go. And I thought that was a really cool way of reframing it, because we're so caught up in just the logistics of everything and the XYZ of things. We're just so black and white with the way we approach everything that when we start veering away from that perfection of, executing the plan, whatever your plan is, then we get down on ourselves and we're like, "Oh no, we're off track. I don't know if
But the
it's
thing
worth it
is like
anymore."
we're in perfection right now.
Yeah.
We're imperfection in the imperfection. Perfection doesn't exist. Perfection is literally right now.
Yeah.
Anxiety is caused by looking to the future or being in the past. Like being
Mm,
in the present moment is what we have. So
yep.
like be present with what you're eating, be present with what you're doing, like be present with your why. Like they talk about what is it? What's her name? Her name's like Esther.
Esther Hicks?
Yes, she talks
Yeah.
about being in the moment. Like it's not in the moment, but it's like basically split your time into segments. So
It's
if your
the
segment is roller skating, that's all you're doing. You're
Yep.
just being present in that increment of time of roller skating.
Mm.
Then next present moment is you're eating. Be present in that moment. But like here we are, we're all just doing the most.
Everything.
And then you like eat and you're like, I don't have any idea what that tasted like or really
Yeah.
even what.
What just happened to me?
Yeah,
You
like you're
almost
going
black
like,
out.
so it's like no wonder we have body dysmorphia because you're like where we can't even be present with like the day that we look good, like the day that
Mhm.
someone said that you look masculine. But
Mm.
like now you're like, dude, you I was banging and I
Yeah.
still am banging. Like
Mhm.
you're just at a different phase in life. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, I agree with the, staying present. And when you are present, you're more grateful for what you have. And I think, especially with our culture now and just how far our world has advanced with technology, it's a double-edged sword. I'm very grateful for all the advancements that we have. Like, we can do so much more in so little time. But at the same time, there are just so many more things to look at, so many more things to do, so many more just pillars of success that we could reach that now we don't feel good enough, but we kind of put that on ourselves. So now we're just spinning our wheels all the time. And that's where I think just body dysmorphia and anxiety kicks in because, like you said, just your head is everywhere and then you don't even know what's real anymore because you're
Mhm.
not even present.
Yeah. And I will have to say, like, I did say that thing about cookies. Like, if you're eating fucking trash and putting trash in your body, you're gonna feel like trash. So, like, this is not a thing. This is not me being like, oh, you can create any reality you want, but like ultimately you want to set yourself up for success. Like, and have eating food that is like made with ingredients is gonna create a response in your body, no
Yep.
matter what. So, like, if you're gonna eat a cookie, at least eat a good quality cookie of something made with whole foods,
Mhm.
not like a Chips Ahoy that could like last on a shelf for like a million years. It's not real food, like eat real food, but like enjoy it when you do eat it and don't villainize it. And I just think like we can control everything in our body. We can control ourselves. We can reverse aging. Like everything is literally just in a thought.
Mhm.
Aging doesn't exist except for in our minds. Like look at animals. They don't even know that we're aging. So like our body is literally our design of our body is in our thoughts. That's why there's so many mirrors in like gyms. If you really look at it and when you're working out and being like, I'm growing my booty right now, I guarantee you'll have more of an impact doing that than like shaming yourself the entire time you're
Oh, yeah.
doing something, being like, oh, well, I don't look good enough.
Oh gosh, yeah. Every time I hear a client say something like that in the gym, I mean, I have one in particular. I've trained her for a long time. She had progressed an insane amount. Like, this girl. And when she looks at herself in the mirror, she's like, "Oh, I still need to fix this and fix that. Oh, my belly. Oh my gosh, my butt is shrinking." And I'm like, "If you keep saying those things to yourself, I will literally punish you."
Well, she's
with
also creating it.
Yes.
She's literally creating it. Like what you resist persists. Like
Yeah.
what you put out, you receive back. So like
Mhm.
if you keep putting out negative in the world, guess what? You'll get negative back. So it's the same thing with your body. Like if you're shaming your body, you're just literally perpetuating that cycle.
Mhm. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because I noticed that with myself, especially with body dysmorphia and just a lot of insecurities and anxieties that I had to address when I would talk down on myself, like, oh, I'm just not lean enough. Oh, I don't look good enough. Oh, who am I to say that I'm a trainer? Who am I to say that I'm this person that could help another person because I don't look this way? And because those thoughts are weighing me down, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where, because I am now weighed down, I'm depressed with myself, I do unhealthy coping mechanisms, meaning binge eating or overeating, which, again, it goes back to, oh, why did I gain weight? It wasn't because of the overeating. Yes, it was the overeating, but what caused that overeating? It was me talking bad on myself consistently over time. So it's like you said, we have the power to control our thoughts. So good news is that there is a solution. Instead of thinking those negative thoughts, I don't expect someone to make a positive switch right away. If even I mean, Esther Hicks even says this, like, go neutral. If you can't go positive, just go neutral, because that's definitely better than negative. So instead of being like, oh, I'm fat, you could just say, I have thighs, which means
Yeah.
I could walk. And then from there, maybe you could start shifting positive and say, oh, wow, my thighs have provided me so much stability over the years. What? I have thighs. I have an able body. So going from negative to neutral and then positive, I think that's a great start to just overcoming those anxieties and just negative thoughts about yourself.
Well, even just with like tapping, like I do a lot of tapping, and
Mm,
like at first you have to acknowledge the negative. Like there's such a thing as toxic positivity. Like
mm,
I have a podcast on it where like we're toxically positive, where it's almost like, well, I don't want to energize the negative thought. So I just jump to positivity. But if your brain doesn't have a bridge to the two, it's not going to take it as truth. You have to acknowledge that you feel something and it is something negative. So like even like through tapping, like I may not be at my ideal weight, but I accept myself fully. Like that'll reprogram you into
yeah.
being like,
Sorry, I
I
cut off.
accept myself fully where I am. Like I may not be where I want to be, but um I accept myself fully. Like I accept myself fully. That's it. Like that's all you can do. And so like sometimes you just have to tap more on those days. Like, and I'm sure like you share on your channel, but like just the different like modalities of being able to do that. And then saying the things that you want to affirm, like, I am sexy. I'm so glad that I have this body that allows me to move, because that's the other thing. When I go through the airport, I see older people, they're not able to move.
Yeah.
Here I am blessed to have legs that can carry me places. There's people that, get in car accidents and they're paralyzed now.
Mm,
Like I guarantee that they wish they could go for a run,
oof. Yeah. And not
right? Like
shame their bodies. They regret all the
exactly.
times that they
They
shame their
wish they
bodies.
could get up and go for a run.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're gonna sit your ass on a couch and eat like a pan of brownies. No. Like if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for someone else. So like
Mm,
someone else wishes they had the opportunities that you do. So
oof.
go take them.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think that's a great way to overcome body dysmorphia as well, and the anxieties that come along with it is recognizing, okay, take your eyes off yourself. And that's something that I just learned from a lot of really good mentors of mine, is that when you take your eyes off yourself, you literally cannot think of your own anxieties and insecurities anymore, and then you become a tool of just contribution. Like, how can you contribute to anyone around you? And yeah, like, you could say that you're blessed to have working legs, and it's like, it sucks when someone else doesn't have it. Like, you could do it for that person, but also at the same time, for those people who aren't as able-bodied, you have a strong enough body to contribute to them. Maybe you can help them out somehow, or use your strength to help someone else. So that's one way to overcome that body dysmorphia, because it does hype me up. It's usually like, I love it when other women are like, oh my God, you're so strong. Like, can you help me out? I'm like, yeah, girl, I got you. And that's what gets me out of my own head. I'm like, you know what? Like, this body that I have shamed for so long for looking a certain way, it was able to help someone out. So it's as simple as that. That helps me out at least.
Dude, well, I mean, I'll speak truth into you right now. Like you helped me so much. Like you're an amazing personal trainer. Like
Thank
you
you.
are amazing, amazing at it. Like you're so amazing. I don't need a personal trainer anymore unless I just want to have someone just hold me accountable and push me a little bit more. Like you trained me so well on how to perform moves correctly,
That's the
like so I
goal.
don't have injuries. Like for me, it's like now it's like me pushing myself to like lift heavier or whatever. But at least I know I can do it correctly to not be injured. Like that's huge. Like I'm
Yeah.
confident enough to walk into a gym and be like, I can like walk around this gym and do all this shit. And it doesn't have to just be squats. Like I don't have to just sit at a squat rack. Like I can do lots of other things, like so I want to thank you for that. And that you don't shame ever, you've never shamed food ever for any of us. Like, especially you have a clientele that is like, has a very different cultural background. And
Mhm.
like ethnic food has different components to it that are bad in the workout community,
Mm.
like, are deemed bad. Like, oh, tortillas are bad, rice is bad, carbs are bad, like all this like, and it's like,
Like,
you
stop.
never you never villainized it. You were always like, how can you make healthier versions of the things that you love? And
Mm.
like, that like that you identify with and you crave.
Right, and that goes back to, it's like, gosh, like, I will blame the school system, the public school system's health education till I die, until something changes, but it's like,
They need more money is what it is.
yeah, it is.
Hey,
Yeah,
future
that's
at
true.
something
That
sustainable to live off of. I'm sure that they would love their job.
that's true, that's true, but, yeah, it's like shaming never works. I think shaming is the root of all, insecurities and feeling like you're not good enough. And I don't think shame should ever be used when you're trying to help someone get better because it's not sustainable. You want to empower someone to, like you said, I'm so glad you said that you feel like you could do things right because that's the goal. It's like teaching someone how to fish because now that you know the tools and you're strong and you have great form, you could teach that to someone else and that causes a ripple effect because that means less broken backs. So that'll help out the world a lot. But yeah, but shaming food, okay. Yeah, rice and tortillas, it's like the whole carbs, demonizing carbs or just food in general is so outdated. And there's this there's this one fitness trainer that I follow on Instagram, and he always talks about the Japanese population. He's like, why do they have the lowest BMI in the world, yet they consume the most rice per capita? Like, you know, in general, like amongst.
They eat extremely clean if you look at their whole diet.
Right, yeah, and it's like, also look at the portion sizes and look at the way that they live. They walk around a lot more. Look at us in America, like we're sitting all day long. It's like when we're sitting, we're just walking a little bit to our car to sit a little bit more, to commute long, long hours and sit a little bit more. And then we wonder why, like, oh, I don't know. It's like just all the little changes that we need to make with, just being more active, walk 30 minutes. If you can't do 30 minutes, do as little as 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. Just do every little thing that you can for your body, knowing that it is good for you versus a form of punishment.
Yeah. It's like you're paying like it's almost like just being respectful of your body.
Mm,
Like that's what it is. It's like you're paying it respect. Like, thank you for showing up for me. Like, let me pay it forward. Like
mm,
I have one client and she's banging, but she literally does like 5-minute workouts. She's got 2 kids. She does them in between things. So she will just like leave out like, her thigh bands or whatever, like and just leaves them out on the counter. And when she can have a chance to do it, when she's washing dishes, she's doing like hip abductions, like, like just really it doesn't have to be super complicated.
mm.
Like
Yeah.
can be really easy and like yeah the gym is intimidating but like literally like what we were saying basically everyone in the gym has body dysmorphia, so if you know that you're walking into like literally something where every single person there is probably a little insecure,
Mm,
even if they're coming across as not being insecure,
true.
they started off where you were too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it's so weird how the gym breeds body dysmorphia. And I don't know what it is. I
I
think
don't think it's the gym. I think it's just our culture,
it's our
society
culture.
breeds
Yeah, it's
it.
our culture.
We
Yeah.
had it way before the gym. The gym
Yeah.
just makes it different because then you're like, well, now I
Yep,
want abs. It makes it real specific.
it
Like,
does.
well, my identity is now tied to like my butt being X amount.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it is our culture. Yeah, no, totally. It is our culture and just so many aspects of our culture. And it's the hustle culture is if we're not doing the most, then it's not good enough. That's why there's such it's so rampant. I had this conversation with my guy friends yesterday because they both used to compete as bodybuilders and they said it was the worst like just worst time of their lives just
it
mentally.
sounds awful, to be
It
honest.
is, yeah, they were like, "It ruined our relationships and our lives because it's so self-serving, like, all you could think about is yourself and how you look." And they said once we got out of it, oh my gosh, life got so much better because you're not thinking about yourself. Again, it's like your eyes are on yourself all the time. Now they're just focused on serving people, and that's how they live a more fulfilling life. And it goes back to the why. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you working out? Because I have a more fulfilling life. Like I'm strong for my family. I'm able to serve better. And my confidence in myself hopefully bleeds into other people who need the confidence too, because we need more of that.
Exactly. Like that's why I was showing up like in the gym and I would literally repeat to myself over and over again. I'd be like running and I hate running, but I
Oh,
would be at Equinox, the PR run classes were the best because all of a sudden you're like, I ran 8 miles. I had no idea
oh
how
my
to do that.
God.
But I would repeat to myself, like, I'm doing this for my mind. I am doing this for my mind. I am doing this for my mind to strengthen my mind because, like, we don't like things that are difficult. Like, we will always choose the path of least resistance, and it's literally not ever going to serve us. It's like in the struggle that we gain, you know, like, you're never going to have strong legs unless you push heavier weight. Like, and it's going to be difficult at times. Like, but that translates into any area of your life. Like, your relationship with your boyfriend is not going to be great unless you have those difficult conversations, you
Yeah.
know, and that'll be make or break your relationship. And then you figure out like maybe I'm partnered with the right person or not, you know, like
Mm,
that goes into any area of life is like things that require effort are worth it. Like it's worth it to put the effort in because that makes you stronger.
yeah. No, totally. It's like being uncomfortable and putting purpose behind that discomfort makes you stick to something longer. It's
Hmm.
like you telling yourself over and over, I'm doing this for my mind. Like, even though this run sucks right now and I hate it, I'm doing this for my mind. And I could see, I know so many friends, including you, who do cardio like that. And I know it comes from a place of building mental fortitude because I tried running recently and I noticed I have gotten better as I do it a little bit more, which is cool to see. And it's like now I'm connecting it with, oh, like yeah, this running kind of sucks and but the purpose is I want to be mentally stronger. The running is just a tool. Like I can do other things that'll make me mentally stronger, but I also wanted to better my cardio and my heart health at the same time strengthen my mental capacity. Why not running?
Hmm.
Like get myself uncomfortable and get healthier at the same time.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like it's just like when you keep showing up for yourself in like little ways, you build confidence in yourself. When you let yourself down by not showing up and going to the gym, you're literally reprogramming yourself that you don't have confidence in your own self. So, like, why would your mind and body trust you? You know,
Oh
there's
man,
a
yeah.
reason why there's a mind body connection. That's why they talk about it so much. It's like when you stop showing up, it's like think about your mind and your body as your friend. If your friend promised that they were going to do something for you and didn't do it and flaked out on you, would you still be friends with that person?
Yeah, but I would not take their word anymore.
Exactly. You wouldn't trust yourself. You
Yeah.
wouldn't trust them. So you wouldn't trust yourself then, you know? So like when you
Yeah.
make a promise to yourself that you're going to show up and do something, you got to do it. You got to hold yourself accountable. And then every one of those small steps, even if it's 5 minutes, like just go for 5 minutes. At least you went. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to do the most, but like that builds up confidence. Then you can go the next time and it's 10 minutes. Like, I always have these friends that all of a sudden are like, I'm going to work out like for 4 hours. I'm like, you don't work out at all. Like,
This
why
is
would you do that?
definitely coming from a place of self-loathing.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
like,
don't do
just go
that.
for like 5 minutes, dude. Like, why don't you just go for a walk? Like, you don't even need a gym membership to encourage you to do stuff. Like, so many people are like, bring me with you to the gym. I'm like, I go at 7:15. They're like, what? It's so early. I'm like, I get it done.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man, I know. This sounds terrible, but it's like whenever someone wants help, I'm very willing, but it's like you also have to meet me halfway. It's like training a client. When like I had a friend recently ask me, she messaged me, she was like, "Oh my gosh, can you help me do this?" It had something to do with like editing and stuff. And she started doing it. I was like, "Dude, that's awesome. I'll help you out." And then I've had loads of other people who are like, "Oh my gosh, can you help me out?" But I don't see any,
Follow.
of meeting, yeah, follow through. I'm like, "Why would I meet you halfway when you can't even meet yourself halfway?" So, I am now more confident in my friend who's like, "Can you please help me edit?" And she spent 4 hours on her first video. I was like, "Dude, I know it sucked, but really good for you." She was like, "It was hard. Like, this is so much harder than I thought." But I was like, "You did it. Like, that's awesome." And it's something that, because she wants to build a channel for herself. And I think that's so cool that, like, now I'm more inclined to help her.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, you're going to make time for the things that are important to you,
Mhm.
no matter what it is. If it's
Yep.
therapy, you'll make time for it. If it's getting your teeth cleaned, you'll make time for it. If it's working out, you'll make time for it. You make time for the things that are important to you. And so if you're not making time for it, it's not important to you. And that's okay. That's the
Yep.
other thing. It is okay saying, this is not important to me. Even if everyone else is saying this is healthy, you should be doing it. If you can't do it and don't want to, that's cool.
Mm.
I think the best thing you can do is own up to it. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, cool. Don't talk about it ever again.
Yep. Yep. Who was that? I heard that from someone. It was a podcast that I was listening to, but their friends, they had a group of friends, and they were like, "Oh, I really want to start up this X business. I really want to start this Y idea." And they all came up with an idea within their friend group. They're like, "If it's your third time bringing it up, don't bring it up again unless you actually start it." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Because what's the worst? At least start it and fail. Because
Mhm.
failure doesn't exist.
It
But at
doesn't.
least you tried and you figure out what you like or what you don't like and you can pivot. But if you don't do anything, I don't want to hear you talk about it. That's
Mm.
like, and like I'm a spiritual psychologist. So like people will be like, oh, I want you to help me. Okay, cool. Here's the times.
Yep.
Tell me times of work.
Yep.
Great defense. Okay, I'm going to say that you're not invested in that right now. That's fine, but don't bring it up to me. Also, like with content creating, people always say that too. It's like, oh, I want to watch you. How do you create your content? I'm like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can literally Google search any of this. You're not going to waste my time doing it if you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
putting
yeah.
time.
That's how I
Like,
felt with, like, the people asking me how to edit. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm down to help," but it's like
it's also a quick Google search.
it is, yeah.
If you can
Just
Google it, don't ask me about it.
yep, yep.
Unless you're really serious, you have a very specific question. But like, it's the same thing with like just body dysmorphia in general. Like, if you want to do something about it, fucking do something about it. If you
Mm,
don't and you're happy living, you can create heaven or hell on earth for yourself. So
yeah.
if you want to live in purgatory, go ahead. Like, and like, it is harder because like, even when we talk about it, and here I've done like all the spiritual work and know all the things, there'll
Mm,
be times where you have these triggers that come up and you're like, you fall back in your old cycle and your old pattern. But the more you can pull yourself out of it, like, and be conscious of it, when you fall back in your old pattern, it's going to feel so uncomfortable and weird and icky. You're like, like it feels familiar, but familiar in a yuck way where you're like,
mm,
this isn't me anymore. I mean,
yeah,
I'm comfortable with it because it was me, but this isn't me anymore. It's the
yeah.
same thing with like drinking alcohol because I don't drink. Is like I went through a time of like, I want to see if I can drink because I hadn't drank in a long time. And I was like, it feels familiar, but it just feels like a shoe that doesn't fit anymore. I was like, this isn't what I want. Like this isn't, I don't like who I am. This isn't for me.
Oh my gosh. It honestly, it reminds me of whenever I slip back into old habits, I just think about moving back home. Like, okay, I love my parents, but it's like when I think of moving back home to my hometown where I went to high school with some people, those associations make me feel really depressed. Like I don't want to go back there. So it's like when I think of, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, these are the same exact habits I was doing back then, and I don't want to go back to that place.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, like every single person is so powerful. Like
Mhm.
that's the whole thing about this like whole self-care movement and stuff. I
Mhm.
think that the bottom line is that you are so powerful.
Mm.
You're so powerful to create whatever reality, whatever you want. And especially with now technology at our fingertips, yeah, everything is a quick Google search away. But like you are so powerful. And if you're not surrounded by people that are going to be supportive of you, that is not your tribe. You can move on. You will find another tribe of people
Yeah.
that will support you and encourage you and, hold you accountable. And especially with the body dysmorphia thing, having a good peer group of people, because everyone kind of knows that everyone kind of has it, is having strong friendships where it's like, hey, tell me when I'm starting to like, be self-loathing or hypercritical of myself when
Mm.
it's not true. And in a lovingly and aggressive way, tell me to shut,
Yeah.
like reality check me. And that's a real friendship is someone that can reality check you without your ego getting in the way, being like, well, they're wrong, like,
Yep. That's when
no,
we get
that's
in
like a good
trouble.
friend.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's like a good friend will tell you the truth, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like I had one friend, she's like, you think about food like a lot more than a normal person. I was like, because I villainized it. I've like overthought it. I'm like, what do I want to eat next? I'm like, are you even hungry?
Yeah, you're not hungry. It's like, why did we eat 5 cans of, I don't know, like the same exact thing? You ate the yogurt, like 5
Oh yeah.
yogurt.
Oh my God, that kefir yogurt yeah, for the farmer's market, it's so delicious. And they're not really that big. So it's not like I ate like these giant things of
Yeah,
yogurt,
yeah.
but I still ate 5 of them. Like, and
It's
that
the
was the only thing I
philosophy of
ate
it.
all day. But like, why did I need to eat 5?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
like, it wasn't going to go bad. Like, I could have like, I could have been eating it right now, but nope.
Yeah, yeah, and that's definitely one of the triggers that I would recognize when I'm like, "Ooh, I'm going in a spiral," is when I start thinking scarcity mindset, when I think, "Oh, there's not enough to go around. Like this food is so good." And my brain kind of tricks me and it's like, "You might not get this ever again. You
It's
should
such,
eat." It is.
and then you swing the other way and you're like, I'm never going to buy it again.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly.
It's so weird. But
It's
like also
scary.
at the end, we were talking about it. Like epigenetics is a real thing. Like
Mhm.
epigenetics is a study of what past life, like not like past life, like I mean past lives, but things that happen in your generations, like
Yeah, yeah, it's like
like
generational trauma.
family, yeah, what that looks like and how it's
Yep.
encoded in your DNA and has reprogrammed you because it was a survival mechanism for you to survive. So in lab rats, they showed that the mom rat that went through the maze and made it through successfully, her offspring never had seen the maze could get through the maze successfully because it was encoded in their DNA for survival. So we have it as well. And so a lot of us culturally experience famines. So some of these like responses may not actually be something that we conditioned ourselves. We probably definitely helped,
Yeah.
but some of them could be generational things that we have to like deprogram in our subconscious mind and like basically unprogram them from like scarcity mindset because there was famines. There was no food for us. And so it got programmed through our lineage that like when there is food, eat it as much like, you almost get that like response like, oh my God, this isn't going to be here. But like that no longer serves us because there's a lot of abundance of food everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like the first step is realizing that you're even having those things happen.
Right.
It's realizing that this isn't necessarily the most normal response and then acknowledging it, honoring it, and not, defeating yourself over it, but giving yourself grace because that's how you heal. Is not by villainizing yourself or punishing yourself. You're not going to heal when you punish and shame yourself to death.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, the epigenetics thing is so fascinating because I know we kind of riffed a little bit on it, but I was also listening to this podcast. Her name is Coach Nicole Cruz. My sister actually went through her program as well. But she generally serves Filipina American immigrants or just second generation. And she talked about that exact thing. She said we have scarcity mindset, and that's because of, our history with the Philippines being colonized by the Spaniards, and what our ancestors experienced was like they were just living their lives, and then th- the other shoe dropped. So that's why we have this mindset of, oh, I don't know, it's too good to be true. It might happen. The other shoe may drop. And that's what happened to them. They got their properties taken away, they got their rights taken away, they couldn't eat what was, available to them because their resources were stripped from them, and that's why that definitely bleeds into eating habits, because I see that with especially my dad's side of the family. The eating habits are so intense, there's so much disordered eating, and it's really heartbreaking because I've seen so much shame behind food, like, I've seen family members, I'm not naming names, but I've heard stories of some of them hiding food and then eating it, and it's like, "Oh, now it makes sense with the epigenetic side of things."
Mhm.
It's like that generational, trauma of, things might get taken away, hence the hiding and the shame.
Yeah, that's why trauma work is such an important thing. That's why releasing negative emotions is so huge because not
Mhm.
only in body dysmorphia, but just in cancer research, they've noticed that people have a higher survival rate when they're going through therapy because they're able to release suppressed emotions. Like doing your emotional trauma work and everything, no matter what modality you're going to use, like either you go to a psychiatrist or a spiritual psychologist or whatever, they are doing tapping, like just doing anything to kind of like be able to express yourself and those emotions, like that has a much bigger impact than just in your thoughts. It on a cellular level, it's reprogramming you. And it's something that none of us can afford to not do. If you're really trying to like biohack and do all that stuff, like it comes down to like you got to get your head right. It doesn't matter how many greens you're drinking. Like, yeah, that's good for you, but like if you're literally living in a place of toxicity because you're so full of anger and rage, like
Mhm.
that's not going to be a healthy breeding ground no matter what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I was catching up with a friend from high school. She was my best friend through high school and college, and I know, like, we've talked about we didn't really say body dysmorphia, but looking back, it's like, oh yeah, definitely body dysmorphia. But she's struggled with her weight for most of her life, and she actually switched into she's now a therapist. She's a trained therapist. And I've always seen her that way. And it's cool to see her make the switch into something that's always been her. And for her whole life, she's always followed what her parents thought was best for her, especially Asian kids. It's like you got to do the medical school route. So she was doing that. And I could just see that, she did so much comparison with herself and other peers that were very similar to her. And I saw how much it weighed her down. And then in recent times, I saw that she had really like slimmed down. And I'm pretty careful with complimenting people on that. Like you said
Oh,
earlier,
yeah, because
sometimes.
like it's like you don't
Yeah,
know if you're triggering or
yeah, yeah, so I know what but with her context, I knew what was going on, and I knew it was, like, a positive change in her life that she started getting leaner, so I did compliment her on it. I said, "Hey, like, looks like you've been putting a lot of work in, like, good for you," and she said, "You know what's crazy? Once I started doing all the emotional release around my parents and resentments with myself and the people around me," she said, "That's when the weight started coming off." And I said, "That's so true," because with my own weight loss journey recently, I addressed some things that I didn't realize that I resented. Like, I see some girls and I'm like, wow, they look so fit. Like, they're so, like, they just look effortlessly sexy to me. And I'm just like, how do you do that? And it looks like they don't struggle with their food. I'm like, must be nice. It looks like you've had it easy. And then I was like, wait, that's me fulfilling, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where I'm shaming someone else who has what I want. And if I shame someone else for having what I want, I'm actually preventing that type of energy to come to me. So, in a way, I was preventing my own needs and wants coming to me because I was shaming someone else for having it.
Yeah. And it works in every area of life, not
Mm.
just your health, it works in your finances too. You're going to
Oh,
shame
yeah.
someone for being wealthy. Well,
Yep.
then you're never going to be wealthy
Oh, so true. That is
because
so
you
true.
can't. Energetically, you're not aligned for it.
Yep.
If you're going to villainize someone for being healthy, you're never going to be healthy. Because
Oh,
why?
yeah.
You're not gonna receive it. It's not even a gift you're open to receiving, because you villainized it. So there is a lot to be said about really guarding what your thoughts are saying, because it doesn't matter what comes out your mouth, you
Mm.
know, because whatever you're thinking has an impact.
Oh,
And
man.
the energy changes. Like you can see it in people's lives. Like the biggest examples are, everyone is on their own journey, but look at drug addicts. They have chaotic lifestyles because they are chaos.
Mm.
People that, can't invest, no wonder they can't invest. They're literally they're a liability of themselves. So even if they were to receive a massive amount of wealth, they are a liability. So they
Oh,
would spend it on liabilities.
yeah.
So it's like really just doing that inner work that's huge. And like we're obviously all continuing to work on ourselves. Like high paying, like high level coaches have high level coaches that coach them. Like
Mm.
we all are constantly, you can't imagine that Tony Robbins is just like at his pinnacle. Like Tony
Yeah.
Robbins has a coach,
Yeah.
he's probably,
Multiple.
yeah, he's continuing to work on himself. Like you have a coach, I have coaches. Like
Mhm.
we're always continuing to like make ourselves better. And honestly, that's the coolest part about it, because like there is no perfection. There's only perfection in the imperfection right now. Because like how boring would life be if we were just like, oh, I'm done.
Yep, that's it.
I'm good.
Yep.
Like,
Y
okay. Well,
yeah,
then
nope.
you'd be like an ascended master. You'd be like a Jesus
Right.
at that
You are
point,
Jesus.
or Buddha. Like
Yeah, you
you'd
are
be one of
Buddha.
the ascended masters at that point. And then like, okay, I mean, which is great, but like we're all works in progress. So like giving yourself grace, knowing like just putting the energy in, finding a coach that you vibe with or you want to work with, even if it's like emotionally or business or whatever it is, because everything feeds in to the same thing. It all comes from your thoughts.
Mm. Yeah. No, totally. It's yeah, the value of having different input, from a coach or, what if you can't afford it yet? There's so many resources online. There's so many positive podcasts out there, educational resources on how to better your health, your mental health, how to do the inner
Yeah.
work.
And
You
a lot
have
of those coaches have free 5 day
there's so many.
challenges. Like
Yep.
go follow any of them and do anything they offer for free. Just dive in.
Right. There's so many free things out there and it does come down to your willingness to want to change. That's all it starts with.
And I do have to say something about like, there's no such thing as you can't afford to do it. You can't afford
Yeah.
not to invest in yourself.
Yep.
Like if you can go out and spend, there's no one that is that poor that you can't afford to hire someone to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
something. There's no one out there. Like, and I work with like homeless people, like
Mhm.
and there's still resources. There's always resources. So that's
Yeah.
not an excuse. And time, not having time. Time is not, you're not the president of the United States. Like you're not running a Fortune 500 company. Guess what? Those guys pay coaches too.
Yeah. They
So
handle yeah, they have people
if
that
they
handle
can do
everything.
it, there's no difference, honey. Like
Right, right. No, that's
you
true.
can afford to do it.
Yeah, there's so many ways. It's like once you get yourself in the mindset of, oh, I'm reading this book right now by Marie Forleo. It's called Everything is Figure Outable. She said just like repeat this to yourself every single day. Like when you remember everything is figure outable. Like I have one of the most inspiring stories is my friend. I've told you about him, but he was also born in the Philippines. He was born in the jungle. Like he rode a water buffalo to school and he is one of the wealthiest people I know, at least in our age group. And came down to his mindset. Like, there's this boy who is an immigrant who is helping out his mom, like just his mom and his brother in a new country. And there's something in his 12-year-old brain that was like, I can have this. Like, I can have it all. I don't have
Mhm.
it right now, but I will find a way. So it's that willingness. It's so powerful.
Yeah. Well, like I always say, like in my when I have like do speech, like speaks or like speaker things or whatever.
Huh?
I was speeches when I do speeches. That seems so weird. I do speeches. It's so weird. But anyways, when I run like groups and stuff, I always go. There's no difference between you and someone making $1 million a minute. The only difference is that person believes they can make $1 million a fucking minute. But there's no difference. It's
Yeah.
not that it's not attainable. There is no lack of any sort. Same thing with your body. There is no difference between you and whatever girl that you're aspiring or man you're aspiring to look like. There's literally no difference other than they believe they can look that way.
Yeah.
And even like looking back at old pictures where I'm like, oh my gosh, like when I was working off with Claudine, I was so skinny. I was also like doing 3 workouts a day. So like there's that disclaimer because I was just literally like such a stress case. But it's like, even if you have like this vision of like, oh, I look like this when I was X amount of years old, you can still do that. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing that other than your own thoughts are
Right.
stopping you from being able to be whoever you fucking want to be or look however the fuck you want to look. Like you already did it once. Like that should be an accolade in itself that you can get there again. Right?
Yeah.
Like
No,
you
that's
did it
true.
once, you can do it again.
Yep. Yeah, we just hold ourselves bottom line is that it's our brains. It's your negative
Yeah.
thoughts and emotions. Those are the only things holding you back. And I get it. Like, I understand the whole that mindset of, "Oh, I feel like I can't get past this point. Like, I can't get to the next level." Oh, you wouldn't understand because you didn't grow up poor or you didn't grow up with resources with minimal resources. But once I got myself out of that headspace where I was like, "You know what? I'm sick of this. Like, I don't want to feel like this anymore." And again, it's that willingness to change. It's the
Yeah.
willingness to admit like, "Oh, yeah, I am thinking these thoughts and it's not doing anything for me. What can I do or how can I think? How can I be to get to that next level that I want to get to?" And the answer is you borrow someone else's brain and thoughts and then you just keep picking at it and then you embody them like how would they think? How would they behave? How would they act? It's not just about the doing. Like, oh, like if I do this, then that means I'll be a millionaire and I'll be healthy, right? No, it's like you start with the being. Like, how are they? Like, what do they embody? Do they emulate, like kindness, compassion, confidence? What are their thoughts like? So you always start with the thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and like, I always like how I even got through grieving like my dad and everything. That's why my podcast is called Grieving with Gratitude, was literally just looking at things to be grateful for. Like, when
Yeah.
I started looking at things that I was grateful for, that was a huge shift. Like, when you look at money's always like a great concept to talk about, is because it just is everyone has a money story. Like, every client I've worked with, everyone's got a money story. So it's a really good one to like talk about. But look at money. Like money, everyone wants more money, but like what does money bring you?
Mm,
At the what is the feeling money brings you, right? Like the embodiment of money. Is it peace? Is it security? Okay, cool. Then it's not really about money that you need more money. It's that you want peace and security. So then being able to dial it back to like, what can I be grateful right now? Do I have peace and security in my life? I do. Then amen. You're rich,
yep.
right? And
Yep.
then money is able to pour in the tangible item if that's what you want, but you got to honor like what it is that you really want. Like if
Mm,
it's, do you really want a six pack, or is it, I want to feel confident in my body?
you can do
Okay,
that
cool.
now.
Then let's be grateful for like, I'm confident in my body. Like I might not be where I'm at, but I accept fully. I'm confident in my body. Tap on it. I don't know what you got to do, but
Yep.
just starting from a place of gratitude as to that's huge, because that helped me get out of so many dark holes, was just being grateful.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
anything, just being like, I'm grateful for the sun being out right now.
Yeah. And it's available to you right now. And I I've been doing the Deepak Chopra meditations every morning,
Oh,
and
I
then
love
it was yeah,
Chopra.
dude, his stuff is so cool, but he had he was starting the meditation and he said exactly like almost the same words that you said. He was like, "What is it that you exactly want?" And he said, "Is it more time? Is it more money? Is it more freedom?" And then he said, "Well, it's like the emotions that it brings you. Do you want more peace and clarity, more abundance?" And he said, "You can have those things right now. You can be in those feelings right now when you stop and recognize what you already have that bring you those feelings." And I was like, "You right, Mr. Chopra. You right." But it was it was like one of the coolest meditations I've done recently because it made me stop throughout the day and be like, "Okay, yeah, I want more money because of peace and freedom." I'm like, "What do I have right now?" I have peace and freedom around knowing that I could buy whatever I want, like with food, specifically with food. I could just choose any restaurant and I could buy food from there. And this used to not be the case because I used to not think this way. I got to this point because I kept thinking that I have the peace and freedom to get whatever I want. Because
Yeah.
I am blessed with that, what do you call that, contrast in perspective of having grown up in a third world country and seeing how people grew up there too, seeing how what my cousins went through and just like the misfortune and knowing that the fact that I'm here and I have all this opportunity is enough. And that's all I need. And I have a roof over my head. I got clothes. I have a laptop and we have Wi-Fi. We've got good weather, even though it's tripping out right now in California, but I still feel safe and secure, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, it's all comes back to like the really big picture, your why. And I think in our hustle culture, it's like money, love, blah blah blah. It's like, well, what is love bring? What is it that love
Yeah.
brings?
Yeah.
What is it? Because you can embody that right now. Like you can embody wealth right now. You can embody that CEO mentality right now. You can embody that healthy mentality right now.
Yep. Yeah, it all starts from within, but I am gonna wrap this up. I think this is an amazing conversation. You know, again, Conway. And then I just wanted to add a little note. So the tapping that Conway was talking about, it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And there's so many resources online. It's basically now there's so much research coming up with it in mind where when you start addressing your negative thoughts, it's like cleaning house. Like you want to address your negative thoughts and then you start tapping in, what do you call them? Modalities or
They're meridian points. So
yeah.
it's above your eyebrow, temple, below your eyebrow, upper lip, chin, collarbone, under your arm, top of your head. And you can do like but it's those meridian points. And so you, even if you're walking through trauma, so I'll take like my clients through like trauma sessions
Yeah.
and it helps neutralize out like the high highs. So it kind of just, it neutralizes out. But for me, I do like a different trauma process than that. This is like better for what I feel like is better for is like if you're having those trigger points, like where it's like you're going to the refrigerator,
Mm,
and maybe you're like going to look for food, but like you're not actually hungry. You know, like when you catch yourself and you're like, what is going on? Like why you're just like walking, like I don't know. I'm probably not the only one that does this because if I do it, when one of us heals, all of us heal. So I
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
know I'm not the only one experiencing this. So when you do like the pace thing, where you're walking back and forth to the refrigerator or the kitchen for whatever reason, I'll
Yep.
be like, I accept myself fully. I'll just like do tapping around anything. When I
Yeah.
started feeling anxiety, like I broke up with my boyfriend recently and I started getting like this weird anxiety because I think he's dating another girl. And it was like, I'm like, even though we didn't work out, I accept myself, like it's just tapping through it. And then it's amazing because you only have to do maybe like 2 rounds and you'll be like, ah, I can breathe.
Yeah,
So the
it's so
breathing
great.
points really do help with just you not being overwhelmed because like I said, you can create heaven or hell on earth. And like I don't want to live in fucking purgatory. So like we're creating it with our minds. So anything that is not constructive, I want to not give it my energy because I want to give my energy to things that are creating amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, no, amazingly put. And I know it's linked to acupuncture, and there's just so much research coming up from behind it. And I'm glad there are more holistic approaches that could be taught versus just medicating all the time. And
Mhm.
we got to self-regulate. But where can people find you? What resources do you have?
So you can find me on Instagram at Conway is Rad. You can find my Grieving with Gratitude podcast at Grieving with Gratitude. I also do digital journals. You can find those on Etsy at Higher Conversations. And I have like retreats and events. So if you want to do in-person live events and meet other people that are like-minded with different speakers, that's Higher Conversations on Instagram. And then you can do one-on-one coaching with me as well. If you have like some trauma coaching you want to work through and get through that, you can definitely reach out to me that way. You can just DM me or yeah. So just find me on Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram, but you can also find me at Conway's Rat on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok,
Yes, she's very active. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I think it's a really, again, it's a really important conversation to have. And I hope everyone who listened, thank you. And I just hope that you find ways, healthy ways to cope or just overcome body dysmorphia. And again, it's not just body dysmorphia, it's all the anxieties and just insecurities that come along with it. And again, you have more control than you think. So find ways that work best for you because whatever ways work for us may not work for you, but there's so many other modes to go about it. But I will see you all next time. Bye.